There are moments when you ask yourself, why is my life like this? Why is it so hard for me to be happy? You struggle, you move forward, you smile on the outside, but inside, something is missing. You compare yourself, you blame yourself, you feel like you don't fit in, as if complaining were a daily habit, and as if life had handed you an unfair role from the start. Today, in this video, I will tell you a different story. The story of a bird that was born with everything against it, a creature condemned to rejection, loneliness, and suffering, but which one day discovered a truth so simple that it changed its life forever. And if today you feel tired of fighting, empty or lost, this message is for you. Do you want to know how this bird changed what it was and found the peace and happiness it sought? Then stay with me until the end. The only thing I ask in return is that you click the subscribe button, because we don't just tell stories here. At the top of a rock forgotten by the world, in the middle of the desert, a small vulture was born under a relentless sun. From a chick, life began to beat it down. The wind was harsh, the heat unbearable. It knew neither tenderness nor comfort. Its siblings, fragile like it, did not resist. One by one, they died. And so, it learned very early that death arrived before an embrace. It survived, but not because it was strong, but because life, for some reason, had not yet abandoned it. From its first breath, existence taught it that everything would be an uphill battle, and it could only endure. Its mother fed it with dead meat, dried blood, and the smell of rot. And while other birds ate sweet fruits or hunted with pride, it learned that its life was made of what others despised. When it began to become aware of the world, the now young vulture felt that something inside it did not fit. From the top of a rock, it watched the falcons pass in the distance, powerful and fast. They hunted fresh meat with pride. It watched the eagles tear their prey with force, feeding with honor and admiration. Sometimes migratory birds crossed the sky carrying berries, seeds, or fruits from distant places where there was life, where there was beauty. It, on the other hand, only had dry corpses, rotten remains, and broken bones under the sun in front of it. Its food came only when something died, and if nothing died, it did not eat. Then it began to ask itself with pain and rage, why me? Why was I born a vulture? Why do I have to look for food among the corpses? Why do they flee from me? Do they fear me? Do they despise me? Even without knowing me? Sometimes it dreamed of being a falcon or an eagle or anything else but what it was. But every time it tried, reality hit it. Its reflection in a sun-drenched stone reminded it that it could not escape its form or its destiny. And in that solitary corner of the desert, its heart began to fill with something more dangerous than hunger and eating scraps. It filled with resentment, complaint, and unhappiness with itself and its destiny. It felt that life had cursed it. Time passed, and the vulture was now an adult. It had moved away from the place where it was born. It no longer needed anyone to survive. It knew how to search. It knew how to resist. It had learned to read the desert, to smell death from afar. It became an expert in something it never chose: carrion, dry bones, rotten meat, skin under the sun. What others avoided with disgust was its daily food. And although its body resisted, its soul was falling apart. It no longer asked aloud why, but inside, doubt, complaint, and unhappiness were still alive like a thorn stuck in its heart. It wandered aimlessly through the desert, with its wings open, but without purpose. It survived, yes, but it did not live. It tried to make new friends with other birds, but it was rejected and mocked for being a scavenger. It had accepted that its life was a punishment disguised as existence. It thought that perhaps God had forgotten it, or worse, that God had created it only to suffer. Every night, under the cold desert stars, it lay down in the sand and whispered to the wind, "If this is the life I was given, what is the point of resisting?" One day the sun was burning hotter than ever. It had been several days without eating. Its wings hung heavy, its feathers rough, dull, and broken. But what weakened it the most was not hunger. It was that deep sadness of unhappiness, that feeling of not belonging anywhere. In the distance, it spotted movement. It was a stealthy lion stalking an unsuspecting antelope. The vulture perched on a rock and waited. It knew what was coming and thought, "If I'm lucky, I might get to eat fresh meat for once in my life." The roar broke the silence. The lion attacked furiously. The antelope fell. The vulture waited patiently. Its heart pounded with anxiety. But when it tried to approach, the lion saw it and mocked. "Get out of here, parasite. This is not for those who wait for others to kill." And with a swipe of its paw, it knocked it to the ground. The vulture, wounded in its pride more than in its body, only watched from afar as the lion devoured everything, until only bones and skin remained. It dragged itself to the remains, but something inside it was broken. It didn't even have the strength to chew the skin. It looked at it and left it there. It walked slowly to a small puddle of muddy water. It bent down to drink, but stopped. In the reflection, it saw its sunken eyes, its ragged feathers, its hunched figure. "Look at yourself," it whispered with a trembling voice. "You are a disgrace. No one respects you. No one waits for you. You are what is left over, what is in the way, a mistake of creation." It closed its eyes, and for the first time felt that it no longer wanted to continue. In that silence, broken by dark thoughts, it heard the gentle flapping of something different. A white dove descended onto the branch of a dry tree that was next to the muddy puddle. The vulture looked at it with surprise. The dove stopped and observed it with tenderness. "Friend vulture, are you okay?" The vulture did not answer. It just lowered its head. "What's wrong?" the dove asked again softly. The vulture looked up and with a voice almost lifeless murmured, "I'm tired of living off scraps, of being seen as the lowest. I never asked to be a vulture, but that's how I was born. I see others fly high, hunt with pride, and I only survive among the dead. Sometimes I think God forgot about me, or simply created me to suffer. Look at me. I'm a pile of bones and broken feathers. I have no strength. I have no purpose. I am not happy. I only exist, dragging myself among what others discard." "And you, dove, where are you going?" the vulture asked with a sad voice. "I am going to heaven to run an errand," the dove replied with serenity. "To heaven?" the vulture murmured in astonishment. Upon hearing that, something inside the vulture flickered like a weak spark among the ashes. "Friend dove, could you do me a favor?" it said, with its eyes on the verge of tears. "Since you're going to heaven, ask about me. Ask God if he still remembers this miserable creature, if this life of pain will ever end, and also ask him what I must do to stop being unhappy, and please bring me the answer." "All right, friend vulture, I will do that." The dove said goodbye to the vulture and embarked on its journey to heaven. It crossed clouds, winds, and silences until it reached the celestial gates. There, an angel awaited it with a serene smile. "Welcome, traveling dove. What brings you here?" "I come to deliver some messages," she replied. The angel listened patiently, and when the heavenly matters were finished, he asked, "Do you need anything else? Any special request?" The dove remained silent for a few seconds, and then remembered the vulture's sad eyes, its dull voice, its words loaded with pain. "Yes," she finally said. "Today I found a vulture in the desert. He is tired of suffering. He feels forgotten, worthless, and has many problems. He asked me to ask God about him. He wants to know if his pain will ever end, and if his unhappiness will end forever." The angel looked down with compassion and said, "His destiny is written. He has 10 more years of suffering ahead of him. It was determined like that even before his birth." The sad dove murmured, "If I tell him that, he will lose all hope. He barely has any strength left. Is there nothing else he can do?" The angel thought for a moment, and then with a soft voice replied, "Tell him to say this: 'Thank you, God, for everything,' and let him repeat it in every situation. That is his trial and his way to transform everything." The vulture was waiting in the same place. The sun had crossed the sky and night was beginning to fall. Although weak, it still had hope. A small part of it wanted to hear something that would change its life forever. Then it saw her. The dove descended gently, floating with peace. "You came back," the vulture whispered. "Yes, friend vulture, and I bring your answer." The vulture slowly straightened up. Its gaze trembled between anxiety and faith. "What did God say? What will become of me?" The dove looked at it with tenderness and said, "God has written 10 more years of suffering for you, but the angel gave me a message. He told me to repeat these words at all times, no matter what happens. Thank you, God, for everything. That is your trial and also your path." The vulture looked at her in silence. It expected something more, something that would free it immediately. And with a dull, disappointed voice, it murmured, "Is that all?" "Yes, that's all," the dove replied softly. "But sometimes a single phrase can change everything." The vulture, a little sad, nodded. "If that is my test, then I will do it." The vulture was left alone, looking at the sky. It did not understand how a simple phrase could alleviate so much suffering, but deep down, it had nothing to lose. That night, as the cold wind blew in the desert, it closed its eyes, pressed its wings against its body, and murmured with a trembling voice, "Thank you, God, for everything." The next day, hunger struck again. It walked for hours without finding food. It fell to its knees under the sun and still said, "Thank you, God, for everything." Its feathers kept falling. Its body remained weak. Sometimes it only found dry skin and still murmured, "Thank you, God, for everything." And so, day after day, without understanding why, it repeated it with faith, with every step, with every blow, with every silence, not because it felt good, but because it decided to trust. And something invisible began to change very slowly. One morning, after days of repeating the phrase, it noticed that its wings no longer hurt so much, that its feathers were less rough, that the sky seemed bluer. That afternoon, dark clouds began to gather. The wind changed, and for the first time in years, it rained over the desert. The dry earth drank eagerly. Small green plants sprouted, a puddle became a pond, and the vulture finally drank fresh water. The next day it found food, not a rotten corpse, but fresh meat from an animal that died of natural causes. It ate, drank, breathed deeply, looked at the sky, and this time, with a full heart, said aloud, "Thank you, God, for everything." A few more days passed. It was no longer the same. Its body was still that of a vulture, but its soul was no longer the one that dragged shame. Now it flew without weight, not because the world had changed, but because its heart had changed. It stopped complaining about its situation, and instead learned to accept the difficulties and act with wisdom and calm in the face of them. It realized that fighting against what it could not change only made it more unhappy, and it focused on what it could change. Every dawn it greeted with gratitude, with every small finding, a cool breeze, a drop of water, a shadow to rest in, was enough to say, "Thank you, God, for everything." It no longer compared itself with other birds. It no longer hated its reflection. The vulture was now happy. Then it saw it clearly. It was not a curse. It was necessary. Its existence had a greater purpose: to clean the earth, prevent diseases, restore balance to nature. It was not beautiful in the eyes of the world, but it was valuable in the eyes of creation. And for the first time, it felt proud to be who it was. It looked at the sky with a serene soul and said, "Thank you, God, for everything." Sometimes we believe that life is unfair. We compare ourselves, we complain, we wonder why others seem to have everything while we only have trials, rejections, and silences. But what this story teaches us is something profound. We cannot always change what we are, but we can change from where we live our life. The vulture did not stop being a vulture. It did not become an eagle or a falcon. It did not need new wings or a different body. What changed was its heart, and that changed everything. Because when we stop cursing what we were given, when we let go of the complaint and embrace gratitude, something inside us is freed. We begin to see that pain was not a punishment. It was part of the process. that our value is not in what we look like, but in what we contribute. Gratitude is not resignation, it is transformation. It is choosing to be thankful even when we don't understand. It is trusting when there are no signs, and that ultimately gives us back our life. So if you are going through a desert today, if you feel like all you do is survive, don't give up. You may not see the purpose yet, but there is one, and it is greater than you imagine. Just try it. Say with all your heart, "Thank you, God, for everything." And watch as little by little, something inside you begins to fly higher. If you have reached the end of this video, it is because something inside you was moved. Because this story touched you? Did it make you reflect or remind you of something important? Now I ask you from the bottom of my heart, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs it. It might change their day or even their life, but wait a moment, don't leave yet. Because if you like this video, I assure you that the one on your screen you will like even more. Thank you for coming this far. See you in the next one.